Hello there everyone, Bard here, and welcome to another installment of Compare and Contrast. And joining me today is the one who requested it, Jacqueline. Hello and welcome to a video where I'll be looking over something good and something bad. Hey, it's my show, not yours. Well, it will be if you say the remake's better. But like I said, the remake might have something decent. But from what I heard, it doesn't have the first. Well, let's get the show on the road. We're going over Total Recall. In 1990, Paul Verhoeven directed the sci-fi action film that's a classic Schwarzenegger film in everyone's eyes. But then, 22 years later, Len Wiseman directed the remake, which follows the same plot as the original, but not as much. But which one do I like better? Let's start off with Douglas Quaid. Hey, can I talk about Schwarzenegger in this? I thought you were just gonna watch me. But I just wanted to join in. Sorry, you're gonna have to watch. Okay, but I'll make sure you don't screw up. In the original, he's played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, while in the remake, he's played by Colin Farrell. With Schwarzenegger, he has all the action, all the quotes, all the comedy, and it all works together. With everything he does, he makes it all fun, even if it's been repeated a few times before. With Farrell, he is not on par with Schwarzenegger, but at least he has good fight scenes, and he does them quite well. So they both are good in terms of action, but in terms of everything else, it has to go with Schwarzenegger. Most of his facial exaggerations and quotes are fun to watch and listen. But even after a big action scene, he never takes a break, or even have a moment to relax, which is what happens in the remake. Of course they both have the same character identity, but what they do is slightly different. Schwarzenegger works at a construction site, while Farrell works at a robot factory. And the stuff they go through are slightly different too. For example, Schwarzenegger disguises as a woman to get past security on Mars, where Farrell uses a collar that holographs a different head. Which is kinda clever, seeing how I was led to think the same woman from the original was him. But if that's the case, it would be silly to see Farrell dressed as a woman rather than Schwarzenegger. Well, that's because he owns it. Anything he does, even if it's silly, he's the master of it. But like I said, Schwarzenegger does have more to what he does. He's just an all-round fun actor and a joy to watch, where Farrell doesn't come close. The Old Ones. Well, this is going good. But we still have 4 more categories to go. I heard you say the same as the last one. Next we'll go into the supporting cast. In the original, we have Sharon Stone as Laurie, Ronnie Cox as Cohagen, and Rachel Ticotin as Melina. Where the remake has Kate Beckinsale as Laurie, Bryan Cranston as Cohagen, and Jessica Biel as Melina. But what about the leader of the Resistance? Or Richter? Or Benny? Well, Richter and Benny aren't in the remake, and the Resistance leader isn't well developed enough, even though he's built up quite a bit. So I'm only gonna go over the ones that are focused more. Alright, if you say so. The support for both are good, but again, there's some differences. There's less of Laurie and more of Cohagen in the original, where it's reversed in the remake. Melina and both get a good amount of time, yet I feel they're both just fine. There doesn't seem to be much with them that interested me aside from them having good fighting skills. With Cohagen, in the original, he's pretty much a demanding presence, only wanting Quaid and nothing else, while being a dictator of Mars and controlling the planet's air system. But in the remake, he's Chancellor of the United Federation of Britain, or UFB, and not only does he want Quaid, but he also wants to invade the colony by sending robots. But he isn't as demanding as the original since there's less of him. And as for Laurie, they both have good fighting skills. But somehow, the one in the remake is better, because not only is she in it more, but she's also a non-stop fighter. She disobeyed an order, she threatened a man to get answers, and all she wants is to kill Quaid without Cohagen telling her what to do. But in the original, she just fights Quaid without wanting to kill him, and is dead about halfway through the film. And you're saying? I'm saying that, while there is differences between Cohagen and Laurie, I say that the remake got that. What? As much as I like Cohagen in the original and Laurie in the remake, it is quite hard to choose, but I'm going with the remake, more for Lori, sometimes for Elena, and sometimes for Cohagen, with a less is more scenario. The new wins. Now let's get into the action. And let's see if you're wrong. Oh, come on, don't act like that. Both movies have good action, but again, they're a bit different. In the original, there's lots of punches, kicks, chases, gunfire, and plenty of gory moments too. In the remake, it's mostly gunfire and chases, with some punches and kicks thrown in. But to which one I like is a bit tricky. But the thing is, while they both have different ways of handling their action, the original looked pretty fun to watch, like how Schwarzenegger used a man as a human shield on an escalator, or how he uses a hologram to confuse the SWAT team, or how he fights Benny operating a drill. In the remake, the action's quite at a fast pace, and would slow down at certain points. And the fun of it comes from the mundane places, like in a magnetic car on the highway, or in elevators that go everywhere, or having to shoot while in gravity. It's a close call, but I'd say that the remake's a little better. And even though I enjoy the action in the original, it's just another case of less is more. The new wins. If you're gonna like the remake more than the original, you'll be sorry. But we're almost done. There won't be any we where you're going. Next up is the effects. Both movies are different in terms of effects, but which one do I like? The original uses both practical and visual effects, and while some are impressive and fun, the rest of them are kind of dated, mainly the green screen effects. The remake has some practicals, but it's mainly visual, and it's a bit similar to Minority Report in some respects. For this one, it's kind of a no-brainer. The original has more fun with its effects, while the remake's kind of okay, though it's been done before. So does that mean? Yes, as you can see, the original is better. It has the X-ray scanner, the mask, the reaction to Mars' atmosphere, etc. They're all enjoyable, or almost, while the remake has its landscapes, holograms, travel through the core, etc., which is all good, but it's sort of been done before. The old wins. And now let's conclude with the movie as a whole. I'm keeping my eye on you. Both movies are inspired by the short story We Can Remember It For You Wholesale by Philip K. Dick, and while they both follow the same plot, they are different. In the original, the first half takes place on Earth, while the rest of it takes place on Mars. In the remake, it all happens on Earth, with the UFB in Europe and the colony in Australia, and people go back and forth through the core in what's known as the Fall. And to where the original had standard settings with plenty of futuristic elements, the remake has some standard settings, but there's more futuristic elements in it. So the settings are different, but the story's another thing. It's a complex one that's understandable at times. Quaid gets a memory of being someone else while at a place called Recall, which gets the attention of Cohagen, Lori, and Melina, and so on. And Quaid and Melina try to save a community of people from danger. In the original, it's saving the people of Mars from losing air, while the remake has them save the colony from being invaded. But there are certain moments that come out of nowhere or aren't explained enough, like how Quaid got the memory at Recall without anything done to him, or how Lori suddenly attacks him even though she's assigned to be his wife, or how Quaid's relationship with the Resistance in Cohagen works, or what Cohagen wants in Quaid's head, etc. Though Cohagen's plan in the original wasn't explained well enough. In fact, what was his plan? Yet the remake has his plan to invade the colony with robots, to allow more robots in control. Yes, both have Cohagen find and kill the Resistance leader, but for his other plan, the remake has that. How about the scene where Quaid's told he's at Recall after getting the memory? In the original, the head of Recall makes him take a pill that will wake him up. But in the remake, a friend of Quaid makes him shoot Melina. Now this is where I find the remake to work, because shooting someone's more of a risk than taking a pill, and it's a big factor when being told by someone you know rather than someone you never met. But the biggest difference with both of them is the climax. The original has Quaid and Melina turn on a reactor that releases air on Mars, and giving it an atmosphere. The remake, as I said before, has them stop Cohagen from invading the colony, through the Fall, and using bombs in the engine area. and both endings are just fine. But it all comes down to which one's better for me. The remake has decent action, but it also takes a little more risk than the original, where the original is a fun action and sci-fi film with interesting effects. So this is another close call, but the one that wins just a little bit is the remake. And I do like both of them, and I know I'll get some hate mail for this, but I like the remake better. It has fast-paced action, a female support that's non-stop, more of the villain's plot, and moments that take more risks than the original. The new wins. So that is it. And what do you think of it, Jacques?
Oh, you are a dead man. You are such a dead man. I am going to come over to your house and take control of your show.
Have you ever watched any of these movies?
No, I just heard about how well they've done.
Well, that's the problem. You gotta see them to believe them. You can't judge a book by its cover. By watching them, you might be surprised at what they offer. Even if people say to see it or not, you're going to have to watch it at some point. Because if you don't, you're missing out on the fun. And if you do, share your opinions rather than forcing them. And people will agree or disagree if you offer a good enough reason. So I'm asking you, will you see these films and offer what you have to say?
I think it's too late for that.
Well then, you got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, a lot. Why didn't I see any Disney films?
Well, thank you for joining me, Jacques, and I hope you'll start watching the movies rather than hear about them.
No worries, I'll immediately start doing it.
You better. And to all you viewers, thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Facebook or Twitter, and tune in next week for a new video.
But what about the leader of the resistance? Or Licky? Or Benny? But what about the leader of the resistance? Or Ricker? No, Rick.